My name is Lila Arden. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my adult life, my unofficial title in this family has been Walking Vacation Package and Emergency Fund. Not sister, not daughter, not even just Lila. I was the one who made things happen. The planner, the provider, the person everyone rolled their eyes at while quietly depending on. Every summer, like clockwork, I booked the family vacation. Not the throw a few bags in the car and hope for the best kind of trip either. I'm talking rental vans, a big enough Airbnb or lodge, so no one had to fight over who got the couch, activities that wouldn't make my dad complain about his back or his patience, and plenty of kid-friendly options for my two nephews so I wouldn't get suckered into unpaid babysitting all week. I handled the logistics, the reservations, the group chat reminders when no one else seemed capable of reading a calendar. And most years, I handled the cost. Not because anyone asked nicely, not because they were deeply grateful. Because if I didn't, nothing would happen, and I'd still be blamed for letting the summer slip by. I'm the oldest, the one with a real job, as my dad likes to put it. When he wants to brag about me to other people while simultaneously shaming me at home. My brothers, Spencer and Darren, like to pretend they're just going through a rough patch. Spencer sells drop-shipped junk online and calls himself an entrepreneur. Darren does part-time gig work and somehow always has time to post 6 Instagram stories a day from the gym, but never seems to have money when the rent is due. Spencer still lives with our parents. Darren floats between girlfriends' apartments like a very charming, very broke nomad. Whenever bills come up, they glance at me with that half-joking, half-expectant look. And for years, I caved. I used to believe it made me a good person. This year was supposed to be special. I found a private lodge in Oregon that looked like something out of a luxury catalog. Lakefront views, fire pits, an outdoor sauna, 10 bedrooms, and a massive kitchen my mom could turn into a bakery explosion. The kind of place that would make even my dad pause and say, wow, before inevitably complaining about the breakfast options. $7,800 for the week. I didn't even blink. I paid it up front in full on my credit card. I didn't tell anyone. I told myself it was because I wanted the lodge to be a surprise, that I wanted to see their faces when they realized how nice it was. The truth was uglier. I didn't feel like hearing Spencer ask me to throw in an extra $500 so he could bring a girlfriend he'd known for 3 weeks. I didn't feel like listening to Darren whine about gas money. I wasn't even excited about the trip. I was bracing myself, bracing for the usual drama, the complaints, the muttered comments about how the beds were too firm, or the drive was too long, or the activities were a bit much. But there was a sense of duty dug deep into me, like a muscle memory I couldn't turn off. Holding the whole dysfunctional machine together was just what I did. My boyfriend Lucas had tried to talk me out of it. You don't have to keep doing this, he'd said one night when I showed him the lodge photos on my laptop. They're adults, Lee. They can plan their own trip. They won't, I'd replied, shutting the lid. And then my mom will cry that we never make time for family anymore, and somehow I'll still be the villain. It's easier this way. He'd given me a look I didn't want to unpack. Easier for them, maybe, not for you. 2 weeks before the trip, we had a barbecue at my parents' house. Grilled burgers, paper plates, my nephews running around with half-melted popsicles. The kind of day that looks normal from the outside. Mom fussed over the grill. Spencer bragged loudly about some supplier deal he was this close to closing. Darren flexed his arms for his kids, telling them about gains. Lucas couldn't make it. Work emergency. So it was just me, marinating in old rolls. Out of nowhere, my dad pulled me aside near the garage. No preamble, no how are you, just come here a second. We stepped away from the noise. The smell of charcoal drifted over. He looked me dead in the eye with that stern, I'm the head of this household expression he'd perfected decades ago. Skip the family vacation, he said. It's not your place anymore. That was it. No explanation, no follow-up. He turned and walked back toward the patio, calling out something about overcooked burgers, like he hadn't just detonated a grenade and walked away from the blast. I stood there, staring at his back. My mom was laughing with Darren's kids, wiping ketchup off their faces. Spencer was half listening to her while scrolling on his phone. Darren was telling some story about how he almost got scouted at the gym. The scene kept moving, like nothing had happened. I should have been shocked. I wasn't. Deep down, I think I'd always known something like this was coming. They never really saw me as part of the family in the same way. I was the infrastructure, the invisible scaffolding, the one who made everything look stable so they could pretend they were standing on their own. I didn't argue with my dad. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't tell him I'd already booked the trip or that I'd fronted the entire cost. I grabbed my bag, said a vague goodbye, and drove home in silence. When I got there, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The $7,800 charge glared back at me, a monument to a place I apparently no longer had. My hands didn't shake when I clicked Request Full Refund. The confirmation screen popped up. The money slid back into my account almost instantly. Then I logged into a few other things. The utilities account I'd been quietly paying since their electricity got shut off 3 years ago. The tuition portal for Darren's daughter. The auto payment I'd set up when my mom's car needed new brakes, and the cost snuck up on them. One by one, I froze them, canceled them, closed the tabs. I went to bed early that night. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up with my jaw clenched. By 7 a.m., my phone looked like it had been struck by lightning. 51 missed calls, most from my mom, a few from Spencer. Even Darren, who usually treated the phone like a one-way broadcast device, had left messages about a problem with the Airbnb. But the best part, the part that made something slow and cold settle inside me, was the forwarded email from my mom. Subject line, urgent reservation canceled due to payment failure. I didn't even read the body. I just replied with one sentence. This isn't over. They had no idea how right I was. After I sent that message, this isn't over. I put my phone on silent, dropped it into my gym bag, and left my apartment. No doom scrolling, no replaying voicemails I already knew would be full of panic and blame. There was nothing to clarify. I didn't owe them a speech. I just owed myself follow-through. 2 hours and one long workout later, I came back to a device that looked like it had been hit by a digital hurricane. 51 missed calls, a dozen new voicemails. The family group chat, once cheerfully titled Fam Vibes 2025, had lit up like a burning building. I didn't listen to the voice messages. I opened the chat. It was chaos. Mom, did anyone confirm the lodge? I just got an email about a problem with the payment. Spencer, relax, it's probably a glitch. I'm on it. I'll call them. Darren, wait, whose job was it to pay this year? Mom, I assumed Lila handled it like always. Dad, stop acting like children. Get it sorted. Spencer, calling the place now. I scrolled down. A few minutes later, Spencer. Okay, weird. They say the reservation was canceled because of failed payment? I told them I'm Lila, and there must be a mistake. They locked the account. Some security flag crap. Mom, why would they lock it? Did you give them the right information? Darren, just tried to rebook online under my name to fix this, but the payment didn't go through. Bank is being dumb. What he didn't say, but I knew, was that he'd used the same checking account that had bounced twice in February. A little later, Darren, now they're saying the property is unavailable for the dates and something about blacklisting new bookings. WTF. The private lodge in Oregon was officially gone. They still hadn't connected it to me. I sat on my couch, the group chat flickering on my screen like a storm, and opened my laptop. If I looked at my phone any longer, I might cave out of sheer habit. So I focused on something else, the thing that had been quietly growing in the background of my life for years. The spreadsheet. I'd started it out of pure necessity and maybe a bit of self-preservation. Line by line, I had logged every temporary loan, every can you just cover this one thing that somehow became permanent, every bill I'd paid just this once that turned into a recurring responsibility. I pulled it up. 8 years of data. Mortgage top-ups when my parents fell behind. Car repairs, utility bills, emergency cash transfers, tuition for Darren's daughter, groceries, streaming services, vacation costs. The total at the bottom of the sheet made me lean back in my chair. $181,000. I stared at it. Not in shock. Even that number felt weirdly expected, but in a kind of exhausted validation. Every time they'd acted like I was being dramatic for feeling drained, this was what my brain had been screaming under the surface. $181,000. Not $1 ever paid back. I scrolled, watching years of my life flash by in tidy rows. Spencer loan, Feb 2018, $9,500. Drop shipping boost, no repayment. Darren rent bailout, Aug 2020, $1,200. Landlord threatening eviction. I'll pay you back next month. No repayment. Parents' power bill, Shut-off notice, $600. We'll handle it next time. No repayment. I felt calm. Strangely calm. I opened a new tab. Hulu account, cancel. Netflix, cancel. Amazon Prime, cancel. The family Spotify plan, I'd added them all to because it was cheaper this way. Cancel. The cloud storage account that Spencer used to back up his business files, paid with my card. Cancel. Every subscription they used, without thinking, was tethered to me. Every little comfort they treated as a given had my name hiding on the invoice, and one by one, I shut them off. My phone buzzed again on the table. I ignored it. Next, I logged into the utility company website. 3 years ago, when my parents' electricity had been shut off, I'd transferred the account into my name just for now, so I could get the lights back on. I'd been paying it ever since. Click. Remove my card, set the account to paper billing at their address. Tuition portal for Darren's daughter, switched off autopay. The auto payment on my mom's car repair that I'd set up so she wouldn't get stranded on the way to work. Canceled. I didn't break anything. I just stopped artificially holding everything together. That evening, I poured myself a drink and watched as reality started to hit them in real time. Spencer sent me a direct message. Yo, do you know anything about the lodge? Mom says payment failed. Also, Hulu and Netflix both logged out. Is there some card issue? Can you call them? I didn't answer. Darren left a voice note. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I caught enough as it autoplayed in the preview. Hey, just checking in to see if you're okay. Mom says you've been quiet. Also, the Airbnb thing is messed up. If you could just make one call to the owners, you're good at that stuff. Delete. Then came my mom's voicemail. Hi, honey. I think some things are being shut off. We're a little confused right now. Maybe there's been a mix-up with your card? Your dad's upset about the trip, but we're all disappointed. The kids were really looking forward to it. Can you call me when you get a chance? Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement of what my father had said. Just confusion that the machine had stopped working, as if the system itself had malfunctioned, not the people who'd built their lives on my back. I didn't call. Instead, I opened another tab and typed in Reykjavik flights. I'd always wanted to go to Iceland. The idea had lived quietly in the back of my mind for years. Northern lights, geothermal spas, black sand beaches. A place that looked nothing like my life. Same week as the family lodge was supposed to happen. Direct flight, booked. I picked a small but beautiful hotel, added a Blue Lagoon visit, then hovered over the Add Experience section for a long time before clicking on a glacier helicopter tour. I hesitated for exactly 3 seconds before hitting Confirm. $7,800 had once disappeared from my account for a trip I didn't want with people who didn't respect me. Now I'd spend less than that on a week somewhere no one could reach me, even by accident. As I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed with a new text from Lucas. How are you holding up? I thought about lying, about saying I was fine, that it was just family drama, that it would blow over. Instead, I typed, I canceled the whole thing, refunded the lodge, turned off everything I was paying for. They're freaking out. I booked Iceland instead. There was a pause. Then his reply came. Good, I'm proud of you. A second message followed. You know this is going to change everything, right? I glanced at the storm of unread notifications, the missed calls, the panicked messages. It already has, I wrote back. I set the phone down, turned the ringer off, and let the apartment go quiet. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing for the next demand. I was waiting for my own life to finally start. The first week without me holding the family's strings together felt eerily quiet, like the moment after a storm siren sounds, but before the tornado hits. I wasn't checking the group chat anymore, but I didn't need to. I could feel the shift through the messages that slipped through individually, panic turning into calculation, calculation turning into manipulation, and beneath all of it, something I'd never seen in them before, fear. It began with Spencer. He sent a GIF. A cartoon dog sipping coffee in a burning room with the caption, Family Vacation Planning RN. Then he followed it up with, No pressure, sis, just let us know where your head's at. Like we were all laughing about this together. Like he hadn't tried impersonating me with a 2016 email account to fix the lodge reservation after it failed. Like he hadn't been spamming my phone for 48 hours straight. I didn't respond. A few hours later, Darren chimed in with a link to a dilapidated cabin in Idaho. The photo looked like it was taken from the perspective of someone fleeing a murder scene. He wrote, This one's not bad. A little rustic. Could you spot us the deposit so we don't lose the booking window? We can pay you back right away. Right away. The same way I had been paid back for everything else. Never. Still, I didn't respond. By the end of the day, their tone began thinning. Spencer sent a short message. "You're being unfair." Darren left a voice note that started out as a fake check-in. "Just making sure you're okay, Lila. We're all worried." But quickly devolved into the real reason he called. "You made stuff complicated for no reason. No one asked you to do everything. You just took it on and now you're punishing us for it." I deleted the message before he finished. I didn't need to hear another second of someone rewriting history because it no longer benefited them. Then my mom left her own voicemail. Her voice was soft, too soft. The softness she reserved for moments she wanted something. "Hi, honey. I'm worried about you. Your dad's words came out wrong. We all say things we don't mean when we're overwhelmed. And I know you've always gone above and beyond. Maybe too far beyond. Sometimes. Too far beyond." That line stuck in my skull like a thumbtack. They didn't see it as kindness. They saw it as control. They saw me as the problem. I didn't call her back. Instead, I sat at my dining table, my quiet little apartment feeling bigger than it ever had, and pulled up my accounts again. If they thought I'd gone too far beyond, then I was about to show them what it looked like when I stepped back within my own boundaries. Cell phone plan? I had put the whole family on my plan years ago to save them money. 5 lines, all under my name. Cancel. Appliance warranty? The dishwasher they refused to fix unless I paid? Cancel. Darren's car loan, the one I co-signed to protect my credit and ended up paying the bulk of? Stopped. His credit was already trashed. Mine was no longer going down with him. Then there was Spencer's beloved business. Last year, he borrowed $9,500 from me to scale up some drop shipping scam. He posted a photo of a fake Rolex 2 weeks later and never mentioned the loan again. So I sent an email. Subject: repayment schedule dates. Amounts: bank info. No threats, no emotion, just expectations he'd never bothered to meet before. He opened it. He didn't reply. That night, I poured a drink and, for the first time, opened the family group chat just to see what the damage looked like. It used to be called Fam Vibes 2025. Now it had been renamed. August trip revised. The entire feed spiraled like a slow-motion disaster reel. Spencer attempting bravado. RV road trip instead? It'll be fun. Minor detail. He forgot his license was expired. Darren, trying to act like the savior. Found another lodge. Listed myself as CEO of Darren Global Enterprises to get the corporate rate. They flagged his ID as suspicious and voided the booking. My mom: I contacted that church retreat center, but they're booked for a youth camp. My dad: what's the problem? Just pick something. Everyone: we have no money. Then came the photo. A cabin that looked like the set of a low-budget horror film. Peeling paint, a sagging roof, a canoe flipped upside down in a patch of dead grass. Darren captioned it, "Adventure mode activated." No one reacted. Their budget was thousands short. Every credit card was maxed or declined. Dad's included. Mom's was apparently never hers to begin with. Spencer's girlfriend bailed once she saw the downgrade. And that was when it hit me. They weren't just scrambling. They were unraveling. The entire structure of their lives, the one I'd been propping up with money, time, emotional labor, crumbled the second I stepped away. And for once in my life, I didn't feel guilt. I felt detached, peaceful, even curious. How long had I been holding up a tower made entirely of matchsticks? That night, there was a knock on my door. Spencer. I didn't even know he remembered my address. He stood on my doorstep with cheap whiskey in hand, wearing gym shorts and the same forced grin he used as a kid when he broke something and tried to charm his way out of trouble. "Hey," he said too brightly. "Just in the area. Wanted to check in." He rambled for a bit. Dad was out of line. I had every right to be upset. We should stick together, before dropping the real reason he'd come. So I found a new place for the trip. Just need a couple $100 to lock it in. You know, just a little jump start. I'll pay you back next week, promise. I didn't say a word. I just slowly closed the door in his face. Through the peephole, I watched him stand there, confused, embarrassed, then angry. He lingered 20 minutes before leaving. No text, no apology. The next morning, I got a fraud alert from my bank. 3 failed login attempts on an old checking account. Device name, Samsung tablet, Portland. Darren. I didn't report it. Not yet. Instead, I went for a walk, bought a lavender latte, and sat in the park watching people who weren't waiting for someone to need something from them. That afternoon, my mother emailed me. It was shockingly respectful. A simple itinerary. Flights, a small Airbnb, a rental car. They had pieced together a modest alternate trip. She wrote, "You're always welcome. We hope you'll join, but we understand if you don't." It was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever seen from her. But 3 hours later, another alert came. An attempted $2,500 PayPal charge from Darren's email. Blocked. If they'd truly changed, they wouldn't still be trying to break into my accounts. My phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. Just 2 words. Enough games. Not a greeting, not a question, a command. For the first time in my life, I didn't react like a child anticipating punishment. I reacted like an adult choosing freedom. I opened my Iceland itinerary and added one more experience. A glacier helicopter tour at sunrise. Because if I was going to disappear from their chaos, I might as well rise above it. Literally. The day my Iceland trip began, the family group chat was still sputtering with last-ditch attempts at optimism. I didn't check it directly. I had muted it days ago, but notifications trickled through the preview bar like smoke seeping under a closed door. Before heading to the airport, I allowed myself one quick glance. A blurry photo popped up. Spencer standing in front of a crooked gray cabin that looked like a set from a crime documentary. A sagging roof, dead grass, a canoe that hadn't touched water since the Obama administration. Darren had captioned it, "Adventure mode activated." No one reacted. I turned the screen off. The trip wasn't my problem anymore. At the airport lounge, as I sipped an espresso and watched planes maneuver against a silver sky, a strange warmth settled in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing a life event for me. Not for them, not for duty, not to prevent a meltdown or fill a void someone else created. When my flight lifted off, I powered my phone completely down. No roaming, no messages, no emergencies. Just silence. A clean, cold silence that felt like stepping into a glacier-fed river, shocking at first, then soul-clearing. The first days in Iceland felt like walking through a dream someone else had paid for until I realized the someone was me. I hiked across black volcanic sands that crunched under my boots. I stood under waterfalls so loud they drowned out every thought I'd been carrying for years. I floated in geothermal pools while steam curled around my body like warm fog. At night, I'd lie in my hotel room, listening to the stillness. No chaotic group chats. No demands. No guilt disguised as love. No brothers asking for favors. No dad barking orders. Just me. Even Lucas noticed the difference when we video called one night. "You look lighter," he said, smiling from his apartment back home, like someone who finally exhaled. "Maybe I did," I said. "You know," he continued gently, "you don't have to go back to how things were. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're safety belts." I nodded, knowing he was right, and knowing that a small part of me still feared what awaited me when I turned my phone on again. But that fear no longer held the steering wheel. On the 3rd day, I powered my phone on for a moment, standing inside a cafe that smelled like cinnamon and coffee grounds. 15 new emails. Not from work, not from friends. From my family. The unraveling had officially begun. Email 1-3, Spencer sarcasm dripping through every line. "Hey sis, loving the rustic vibe of this cabin. Really on brand. Didn't realize you were going full witness protection this week. Anyway, when you're done soul searching, maybe you can tell us how to fix this." Email 47, Mom. One long guilt ribbon broken into multiple messages. "The kids miss you. We could have worked through this. You know your father doesn't always think before he speaks. You've always taken things too personally." Email 810, Airbnb host, forwarded by Spencer. Their payment had been flagged as potentially fraudulent since Darren used an unverifiable identity. Their booking was canceled. No refund. They had 48 hours to leave the property. Email 11 and 13. Darren rambling, unpunctuated. Written like a confession from someone who had hit the end of the rope. He admitted to the PayPal attempt, admitted to trying to log into my bank account, admitted he panicked and didn't know how else to handle things, admitted the vacation was a disaster, admitted Dad hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. But the last line got me. "I didn't know how much you did until everything fell apart. I'm sorry. Can you tell me what to do?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. For a moment, just a moment, I felt that old instinct rise. Fix it. Make it better. Rescue them. Be the good daughter. Be the dependable sister. Be the foundation because no one else knew how. Then I remembered the garage, my father's voice. "It's not your place anymore." 15 years of sacrifice dismissed like a burned burger at a barbecue. I closed the laptop. No reply. The contrast between our trips couldn't have been more symbolic if the universe had storyboarded it. Them. A collapsing trip in a tiny shack, money drained, bookings canceled, everyone blaming each other, kids bored, mom exhausted, Spencer bitter, Darren spiraling, Dad silent like the whole mess offended him personally. Me, waking up before dawn to board a helicopter that skimmed across glacier fields, glowing blue beneath the morning light. The pilot narrated in a calm voice. Some people come here to find silence, some to find themselves. I stared at the vast ice stretching in every direction. Maybe I was here for both. The helicopter landed on a ridge that looked untouched by anything but wind. The air was razor clean, so pure it almost hurt. That's when it hit me. This was the first vacation of my life where I didn't have to plan anything for someone else, didn't have to accommodate, anticipate, cushion, soothe, or pay for anyone's comfort. I wasn't a provider. I wasn't a scapegoat. I wasn't the backbone. I was just Lila, a woman standing on ancient ice, breathing like she had never breathed properly before. 2 days before I flew home, another email from Darren landed. Short this time. No refund. We're leaving early. Dad's furious. Mom's crying. Spencer's broke. I get it now. Take care. No request for money, no guilt trip, just recognition. But recognition isn't redemption, and it isn't obligation. I closed the email. Went to dinner. Ordered a glass of red wine. Watched the northern lights ripple green and violet across the night sky. I wasn't thinking about them. For once in my life, there was no space for their chaos inside me. I was full of breath, full of quiet, full of myself. When my plane touched down in New York, the city was exactly as I'd left it, loud, bright, alive. But I wasn't the same woman who'd boarded the flight a week earlier. If anything, I felt like I'd shed a skin I never realized I'd been wearing. Something heavy, something inherited. I didn't tell anyone I was back. No text to my mom. No mandatory check-in to reassure a family that only ever worried when I stopped being useful. No landed safe in the group chat. I just slipped into a cab and watched the skyline blur past the window. For the first time, home felt like a place I was returning to, not escaping from. The first week back was the quietest of my adult life. I didn't check the group chat, didn't open emails, didn't look at missed calls. I cooked simple meals, read books I'd abandoned years ago, walked through neighborhoods where no one knew my name, went to bed early and woke up without alarms, guilt, or the crushing sense I'd forgotten to do something for someone else. Here's the surprising part. I didn't miss them. Not even a little. There was no ache, no longing, no phantom responsibility tugging at my conscience. Just space. Space I filled with myself. On the 8th day home, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Actual paper, no return address. My instinct told me to throw it away. Instead, I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. My entire family stood clustered outside the tiny gray cabin they'd ended up renting. The nephews squinted into the sun. My mom's smile looked stretched thin. Spencer held a fishing rod like a prop, and Darren wore sunglasses more expensive than his moral compass. On the back, taped with a yellow sticky note, were 4 handwritten words in my father's unmistakable blocky handwriting. We figured it out. I stared at the photo, not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I put it on the counter, not to display it, just to let it sit there. A relic from a life I no longer belonged to. Later that night, I slid it into a drawer, not thrown away, not sentimental, just archived. Like a chapter that deserved to be acknowledged, not repeated. A few days later, I got an email from my mother. Short, plain. Hi, honey. Heard you're back. Hope you're well. We've been talking about getting a second job to cover things without putting it on you. It's not your place anymore. For a moment, everything in me went still. Not your place anymore. The same words my father used to cut me out, but this time, reframed. Not as a punishment, not as rejection, but as acceptance. For the first time in my life, my mother acknowledged that the weight I carried was never meant to be mine. That was something. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just awareness. And sometimes, awareness is enough. The next day, my banking app pinged with a notification. Incoming transfer, $250. From Darren. Memo. Starting small. No hard feelings. I get it now. It wasn't even a dent in what he owed me, but it was real. A gesture without manipulation attached. I sat with it for a while. Then I closed the app. No reply. No commentary. I wasn't stepping back into that role. but I wasn't closing the door on his small attempt to grow either. Life hadn't given me many moments where my family acted like adults. This was the closest I'd seen. A month later, another envelope arrived. This one was unmistakably a wedding invitation. Cream cardstock, gold lettering. Spencer. I almost laughed. The idea of attending felt absurd, but inside the envelope was a handwritten note. 3 lines. If you show up, we'll know it meant something. If you don't, we'll know that too. Either way, thanks for everything you did. You held us up longer than we deserved. I didn't go, but I didn't throw the note away either. Some endings don't need full closure. Sometimes a softened truth is enough. Months passed. Darren kept sending $250 each month. Never more, never less, quiet and consistent. No guilt, no messages, no excuses, just repayment. I respected that more than any apology. My mother sent short emails occasionally, links to articles she thought I'd enjoy, photos of the garden. No pressure, no emotional traps, just normal. My father never reached out, but somehow that also felt normal. In their silence, their slow efforts, their clumsy attempts at adulthood, something became clear. They finally understood what life looked like without me carrying the weight. And I finally understood what life looked like when I stopped letting them. Here's the twist no one saw coming. Not them, not even me. I didn't need an apology to be free. I didn't need repayment to feel whole. I didn't need their validation to feel like I mattered. All I needed was to step away long enough to remember who I was without their hands on my back, pushing me into roles I never volunteered for. Now, when I open my junk drawer and see that photo of them in front of the sad little cabin, I don't feel anger. I feel clarity. They survived. I thrived. And for once, those two things weren't dependent on each other. There's no dramatic reunion coming. No neatly tied bow. No Hollywood forgiveness arc. Just this. I stopped failing myself, and that has made all the difference.